So this is my 1986 Toyota Tercel four-wheel drive wagon. It is front-wheel drive, except for when it's four-wheel drive mode. Yes, the engine longitudinal. No, that does not make it rear-wheel drive. For those who don't know, I'm going to try and keep this organized. This is my third time doing this video, and I keep ending up rambling through the video. So I'm going to do a disclaimer. When you look through my video, you're going to notice my ugly-ass welds. No, they are not pretty. No, they are not booger welds. However, they are holding everything together. I am very bad at fabricating, and a lot of these welds are ugly because I had to fill in large voids into the pipe. My welder is not meant for piping this small, and nor can I turn the heat down. Yes, it does have a heat selector right there. However, it does not like the gas valve, because when you turn down the heat, it turns down the voltage for the welding gas valve, which means the gas valve will not turn on, which makes your welds horrible, ugly, and not good. So, how do you do this? I wouldn't do this. Mainly because the gains that you get are not worth it. Yes, I know that's a perfect answer to how do you do it? Well, don't do it. The gains are just not worth it. The power I'm getting from this, you might as well do a twin cam swap. I mainly did this as a stepping stone because I'm going to do a turbo build for that Tercel. That is a first gen, same drivetrain, just not four-wheel drive. I wanted a stepping stone to figure out how to do this and what to do and what not to do. The only difference being is this one's carbureted, that one's going to be fuel injected. So really this is more of a fabrication challenge to me to see if I could do this. Yes, it's fun to hear this motor scream with the turbo whistling. But you know, my fuel economy is in the toilet. The thing runs really hot, and now I can't even really put my hood back on. I thought about hacking the hood up. I'm probably going to leave it off as long as I can because I don't know how long the engine's going to last. So I'm going to try and keep it organized. Let's start with the motor. The motor is stock. The manifolds are stock. I did not modify the motor or the manifolds for this. The only thing that has been modified was when I first dropped this motor in. This is from an 82 first gen because the motor that came in this wagon was so bad that it was not worth saving. But they're the same. But the only thing that was modified was the intake manifold and the head. I need to roll back everything I said. The intake manifold and the head were gasket matches. It means you take the gasket, you mark the material that is not it's the hole is smaller than the gasket, so you mark the material and you grind it out and smooth it out. Helps with flow. When I built this motor, I put a modified grind cam in it and double valve springs. This was before the turbo, so the cam and the springs were not put in because of the turbo. That was just a, hey, cam regrinds are $100, springs are $100, gonna throw it in, have fun with it. The grind I have allows the motor to rev up really high, but the torque sucks down low. I'm going to get a turbo cam for this. The turbo cam, in simple terms, better for a turbo, obviously. Just the overlap, duration, all that is more suited for a turbo. However, you can run an NA cam if you want. It's just not going to be as optimized. But other than that, the motor is bone stock. I know there's no thick connecting rods, no weird pistons, no nothing. It's just 3AC with stock parts. So I'm trying to figure out. I'll do the ignition system next because it's fairly simple. For those who don't know, this is a factory 3AC, 4AC distributor. It is a vacuum mechanical advanced distributor, and all the guts are on the inside, like the coil and the igniter. It's all crammed into this thick distributor. I have the vacuum advanced disabled because when you put a turbo on an engine, especially one that's not fuel injected where you can finally control everything, you have to pull as much timing out of the motor as you can or it'll detonate. detonates when the fuel charge goes off when it's not supposed to, and that's very detrimental to motors. I have vacuum vents disabled, which is just unhooked. So I have 10 static and then 10 mechanical, gives me a total of 20 degrees. I may bump it up later, but for now I'm leaving it because it's not detonating and it's fine. So don't touch it. So that's that. This. Sorry, I'm out of breath. When I talk a lot, I don't breathe a lot. So this is a cruise control throttle cable assembly from an FX16 Corolla. I don't know. I don't think these are going to be easy to find, but it's what I had on hand, and it works. Now, the throttle cable is way too long on that side, but it works, and I'm not going to touch it. This is the stock 3AC cable, and it's way too short. So, that's that. Onto the fuel side, this is where it gets complicated, because it's the turbo. So, this turbo is a Garrett TB 2531. The AR is 0.48. If you look at the tags, it's got two different Garrett tags, but the one that has its model number is some wacky Garrett Saab turbo number, but when you Google it, it comes up from a Saab 900/9000. You can still get rebuild kits from it, and you can get an adjustable wastegate for it. The AR is 0.48, so it's an itty bitty turbo for an itty bitty motor. So I'll get into all these lines, piping later. Carburetor, Weber 3236 with a synchronous throttle cable mechanism with a double pumper jet up top and really much bigger jetting than what the motor needs naturally aspirated. The synchronous, so 3236s are progressive, which means the primary opens first and then the secondary opens later. Synchronous just means that when you open the throttle, both blades open at the same time, because turbos, when you go under boost, do not like having one of those throttle blades closed. So, ouch, my knee just hit the exhaust pipe. This is the bracket to help keep the turbo stable. It keeps it affixed, otherwise it'd be flopping around like a wet noodle because of the elbow. There's no metal in that elbow. The hot side intake pipe here starts from the manifold. I did a whole bunch of pipe cuts and ugly welding to get it up here, around, and over here. I have one piece of reinforcement. I do not like this. I wish I could get rid of it. I have a vague idea how I want to get rid of this, but it works, so I'm just going to leave it. If this piece wasn't here, this exhaust pipe would like twist and move, and eventually it would all crack, and when that cracks, that's going to be a really bad day. So, this is what's keeping this affixed to the motor. Because turbos are heavy, and when you're this far away from the motor, you have a really big lever, and that's bad. So, catch my breath here. So, get to the piping here. I'm going to start with all these kitchen lines, which everybody's going to cringe about, but I don't care because it's cheap and it's good for pressure-ish. As long as you don't get it scalding hot, which, you know, being that close to the exhaust pipe, definitely isn't going to get it hot. So, down here on the turbo, there are 4 line connections. Oil feed. This is, I believe, the coolant feed, coolant return. Now on the bottom, way down there, you see that hose clamp, that's the oil return. Start with oil. This oil line snakes around the block, goes over here, goes to a sandwich. Sorry, I bumped a button. So it goes to a sandwich plate. Sandwich plates are good for oil coolers. They have one line that comes off, and then I would assume somewhere on the motor has a place for the oil inlet, unless the oil cooler has it, or the sandwich plate. This is a Toyota 4AFE sandwich plate. They're pretty simple to get off. There's one bolt, and then you gotta take the drain pipe out, which is some big nut, and then it comes out as a pipe. If you use one of these Toyota sandwich plates, you have to remove the oil valve. There's an oil valve off this barbed fitting, which you probably can't see, down here, and it opens up when the oil's hot. That's bad for a turbo, because if you're running your turbo and your engine's cool for 20 minutes, well, your turbo hasn't had oil for 20 minutes, and it will probably destroy those bushings or bearings, whichever type you have. So that's where my oil goes in. And the oil drain, you're supposed to go into the pan as low as you can, because if you have oil buildup in your drain, it starts burning oil. I don't have that problem, but I do have oil burning problems because this turbo's worn the fuck out. There's a lot of end play in the fucking turbines, and if I idle for too long, oil builds up in the piping and it burns, blah blah blah. I'll get to it later. Oil drain, if I can get down here. It's gonna be kind of blurry, but I can't focus. So you can see kind of vaguely where it goes. I drilled a hole in my block for a 5/8 inch NPT. That's all I had on hand, and it's fine. I like have watched it while it's running, and there's very little oil draining out of it. So I mean, I read online that you're supposed to have this massive drain line, and it's like, it's not draining a whole lot, so it should be fine. I don't know, maybe that's part of my oil bearing problem, but I think it's just because the turbo's worn out. Got a side note while I'm already kneeling here. I put the turbo here because I didn't feel like clocking it and figuring out how to do pipes and blah blah blah. I used to have it shooting at the fender for testing until I got this hole cut. And I was melting these trunk lines, and let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that is controlled through these trunk lines, and I had to repair it twice, and yeah, it's not fun peeling apart melted wires. I look like I've been in a fire. It's gnarly. So yeah. Other thing I'm going to note while I'm kneeling here, try not to use rubber elbows. The problem with rubber elbows is that they collapse under vacuum, which is anytime it's not under boost while the engine's running, which is idle, cruising, you know, putting around, they're collapsed. Is it bad? People say it is. I mean, if you're going for horsepower, probably. I mean, I know I have problems with gas and fuel pooling up in that one. I just deal with it. So go to these. This is the coolant return, and this is the coolant feed. Turbos have a coolant jacket to cool the oil jacket. You don't need to run coolant, however, your oil will cook faster because turbos get really fucking hot. So your coolant, there's a coolant jacket. I got mine hooked up. Stand back up here. Mine goes to where the TVSV is. Don't ask if it's for sale, because when I took it off, it broke in half. So, yeah, so then I got mine going back to one of the heater core lines down there. I believe that's the one that goes back to the block. So yeah, so that's the coolant. So yeah, I think that's about it. I'm gonna go over the exhaust here real quick. It's a tri-bolt triangle, like a sphere flange. I don't know what they're called. It's like a ball and socket, and you bolt the fuck out of it, and it seals. And I got mine pointing up past the front tire. I don't think it's hitting the front tire, but I wish it would stick out a little further, but that's what I got. Last thing to note here, don't mind the extra fuel filters, a previous owner edition. I just, screw it, just leave it. Fuel pump, Weber's. There's going to be someone that says you can run a Viton needle and you'll be fine because the mechanical pump puts out too much pressure. As I slowly lower my hand here, there's the mechanical pump. They put out too much PSI. I think the mechanical's like 7 PSI, and Weber's really don't like more than 4. Someone says you can run a Viton needle. It's really kind of a band-aid. What happens if the Viton fails, or it just doesn't seal like it should, whatever. Electrical pump, make sure it's good for like 2 to 4 PSI. It'd be golden. Do not mount on the valve cover, because as soon as this engine gets hot, it vapor locks. That was a bad decision on my part. I'm probably going to move it to the firewall. How much power do you think I'm running? Well, seeing as this turbo is only pushing 5 psi from the factory, not much. It helps. It definitely helps with the car. Shit, I don't know, 80 horse, 85 horse from the 60 horse. It's definitely quicker. It's still not a rocket ship. People going, oh, you're going to blow up the transmission or blah, blah, blah. No. Take that rumor, ball it up, and throw it out, because these transmissions can actually take some power. There's someone in the Facebook group that has a 20 valve black top 4AGE head, motor, whatever, in their wagon. 165 horse. He's had this build for like 5-10 years. No problems. Okay? This yellow Tercel, again, same transmission. It's a 4-speed, but still the same. I'm pushing 120 something horse. Not a problem. And I autocross that car, and I abuse the shit out of it, and it's fine. Just make sure you're not leaking oil. Make sure you're topped up on oil for the transmission. Don't fucking be revving up to the moon, dumping the clutch. Don't be dumb, and you'll be fine. It's really about the rule with these transmissions, and especially 4-wheel drive. Don't be dumb. You'll be fine, because those are the weak points of these transmissions. Dumb people and low oil. You know, I think the guy with the 165 horses, his name is Larry. I'm going to try and break his record with this one. I've got most of the parts for a turbo build for that one, and I'm going to be aiming for 200 horse. So maybe with a limited slip, we'll see. So I think that's really about it. This video is actually a lot shorter than the other two. If you have any questions, I think I went over everything, but, you know, when you get halfway through the video, you forget what you talk about most of the time. So, yeah, if you have any questions, post them, comment them. I'll try and respond. I'll try and respond in a timely manner. And, yeah, have a good day.